How many people here have had political science classes? Okay, a lot of you have. That's good. That's good. We're going to talk about some of those ideas today, political science stuff. But I'm going to approach it from a little different angle. It's more from a pragmatic angle, and it's an analysis that I have kind of put together myself. And I realized before somebody raises their hand and says, I've had political science and I think you're crazy as hell, and this is not what the books tell me, I understand that. I know that what I'm going to tell you today is different from what you've been taught. And the reason why, in my ever so humble, and you know how humble I am about stuff, opinion, is because the people that write these political science books don't understand political science really. They're just writing in the book what they were taught by their professors, and then their professors are writing what they were taught by their professors, and so on and so on. And somebody came up with an idea and everyone has just ran with it, and nobody stopped to really think whether it made much sense. So I'm going to approach it from a different angle, different position. Much, like I said, much more pragmatic and very consistent. I will also dumb it down to some degree. So it's not, and I say that in not in a mean way, but in a kind way, just so it's easy to understand, get your hands around and your head around, and we can move quickly through the stuff, okay? Because this isn't going to be a political science class where we're going to be talking about complex terms where you're going to have to go, well, what does this mean? We're going to keep it all into layman's terms, okay? Why am I going to talk about it? I had a student one time after this class raise his hand and go, what does this have to do with critical thinking? And it kind of caught me off guard a little bit at first. But it was very short-lived. And I thought to myself, well, this is one of the most important aspects of critical thinking. There's really two major areas that you're bombarded with the most when it comes to critical thinking. One is people trying to take money from you, right? Ads, people telling you to buy something. Their whole goal is to manipulate you into spending money on their product. You're bombarded all day long on the computer and billboards and TV and radio and wherever you go, people are telling you, you should spend your money on this, give me your money. And they're very good at it, and they get paid a lot of money to do that. And so as critical thinkers, probably the biggest job is to critically analyze when people are trying to convince you to give them their money, to give them your money. The other aspect that you will be bombarded in your life over and over again is politicians trying to convince you to give them something that is extremely valuable to them, which is your vote. Because your vote gives them power, and they use that power to get rich. They use that power to solve our problems. So, as a critical thinker, your job is to see through the BS. But part of that is to know who you are. I believe it's extremely important to know who you are in life. And part of knowing who you are is how you see the world politically, where you stand politically. And most people here, I would guess, have no clue where you stand politically. You either don't know, or you think you know, but you only think you know because it's what your mom and dad have told you, or your best friends, or what Jon Stewart said, or what Stewie said on Family Guy, or we come up with our political views from the silliest positions, and we go, oh yeah, that sounds good to me, I'm going to go with that. And so I'm going to provide you the best I can a broad, unbiased approach to politics. And I say that with a little wink and a grin because you guys all know I'm biased, right? I understand that. I told you day one I'm biased. You guys know I'm biased. There's no hiding that issue. But I'm going to do the best I can to present it in a way that is fair as I can to both sides. okay? Because I honestly, in the end, believe that it's not as though one side has all the answers and is right, and the other side is evil, horrible people. And so, that being the case, I think reasonable people can disagree. But I like them to do so when they do so based on reasonableness, not on knee-jerk emotion. So, that being said, Democrats and Republicans are kind of what we have right now. The country has, through time, had different political parties, but largely we are a two-party system, even though there are more than two parties. There are two viable parties that are given attention by the news, and so as a result, those two parties are the ones that kind of dominate and have any chance at winning anything. It would be nice, arguably, for it to be different, but other countries that do have multiple party systems, where they have a parliamentary system, they do have a lot more kind of craziness and turmoil, and it's tougher to get things done, and I'll explain that in just a minute why. But it does allow for more fluidity between the parties, with one party being able to take the limelight and go into the front and then back down and that sort of thing. Ours is a very high hurdle to get over to get into one of the two parties. It's very, very difficult. So between the Democrats and the Republicans, just to kind of toss this out to kind of give you an example, most people think that they know the difference, or they've heard what the difference is. And the reality is probably what most people think is 100% wrong. What do we think the Democrats and the Republicans, the difference between them are? The Democrats are for who? Who are the Republicans, who are they for, typically?
Conservative.
Yeah, but, okay, conservative.
Right.
Who do they represent?
Rich people.
That's right, that's what I was expecting. And then who do the Democrats represent?
Poor.
Poor people. This is what we've been told over and over and over by everybody in the world, right? Haven't you heard this 1,000 times? The Republicans are for the rich people, the Democrats are for the poor people. Just right off the bat, I gotta tell you, this is the biggest load of crap that has ever been given by anybody about politics. You understand that? Think about who are the rich people in America. Think about it for a second. Well, how about all of Hollywood? They're all rich. They're all very, very liberal, right? When I say all but two. How about all the tech companies?
Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. Every single tech company, down the line, or what are they? Very liberal, right? They're very rich, they're very liberal. What about Wall Street? Liberal, very rich. What about, who else is rich? Big business. What are the biggest businesses in America?
Amazon.
Amazon, liberal. Next one? I'm sorry? Apple, very liberal. Next one?
Google.
Google, very liberal. Next one?
McDonald's.
Starbucks, very liberal. Right, you see? So for people to say that rich people are the conservatives and the Republicans are for the rich people and the Democrats are for the poor people is the biggest line of crap I've heard ever. It's just a storyline that is used, and I'll explain why in a second, but it's to categorize people and to cause problems. But we'll talk about the categories in just a minute. So, right off the bat, the notion that rich, poor, crap. Here's the difference, and we'll explain it to you in a way that we can all understand. Here's the political spectrum. The political spectrum is a circle. On the political spectrum, in the center, people say, well, I'm middle of the road, I'm a centrist. You've heard people say that about political,
Yeah.
right? The center. Left of center, over here, the left, and over here, the right, is right of center. The political left and the political right. Now, we say that the right is, somebody said, conservative. And remind me, I'm going to put a little asterisk so you can remind me what that means in a second. And the left is considered what?
Liberal.
Which is also somewhat of a misnomer. They're really more this. And that's a positive euphemism for what they are. Again, kind of a misnomer as well. A lot of these labels that we put are reducing very complex ideas into simple, largely meaningless labels. But so you understand what we're talking about, I'm going to label them the way we use these labels. And I'll put a little asterisk about this so you can remind me to remind you to remind me to explain this in a second. So what's the difference? Let's scoot this over. Okay, there's 5 differences. The differences between the left and the right. The left and the right. 5 differences between the left and the right that I've broken it down to. There's probably more, but these are the big ones. Yes,
Oh wait, are we naming them now?
I am. Oh, you want to tell me what the differences are? Okay, go ahead. What are they?
I know, one of them over here is for abortions, and the other one's anti-abortion.
Oh, you're talking about actual issues. Just a second.
Oh, okay.
No, that's good. Abortion, we'll talk about each one. What are some other, because here's what happens. We send politicians, we have, as you guys know, we have a system where our country is set up where we have politicians that we send off to solve our problems, right? And we do not have a democracy. You understand that? We'd say we have a democracy, but we don't. We have a representative republic. We have a constitution that is the law of the land. And then we have representatives that we send off, that we elect in a democratic way, but then they ultimately go off as our representatives, and they go to Washington, and then they pass laws, and those laws are always judged against the Constitution. We do not vote for laws. That's what a democracy does, is they vote for laws. We don't do that. The Constitution controls whether the laws are good or bad after Congress has passed them, and the President has signed them in. So, the reason why we send politicians is so that they can solve our problems. That's the idea, right? We have problems, we send them off, they solve them. We don't all vote on them. We don't have the time. We don't have the brains. We don't have the experience, is the idea. And so we send smart people to take care of that stuff for us because we're busy with our lives. And so they go and they solve our problems. What are some, that's the background, what are some of the big problems? Well, abortion, and the problem with it, it's not really, that's not the problem. What's the problem? Is unwanted pregnancy, right? That's the problem. Abortion is the solution. What's another problem that we have? Yeah.
Religion.
Religious?
Religion.
Religion? How is religion a problem? What do you mean?
How prevalent it should be in our lives.
Well, I'll put it up here. We'll see if we can fit that in some aspect of this in a little bit, because that, I mean, it's a big issue, but it's not really a concern, a big problem on the lines that I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Gun laws.
Okay. Gun laws are not the problem. What's the problem? Violence, and then you want to talk about guns when it comes about to violence, right? The issue is violence, right? Isn't that the problem? The problem isn't guns, the problem is violence. Yes?
Taxes.
Taxes, what's the problem?
Tax reform. Or how many people should be taxed?
Paying too much.
The problem is funding the government. We fund the government through taxes, right? You see what I mean? See how I'm doing this here? The problem is not taxes. Taxes are the solution. The problem is, how do we pay for the government? We tax people. We could do it other ways. We could do it through, you know, tariffs, I suppose. What else? Oh, you have another one.
Immigration.
Immigration? What's the problem? illegal immigration, legal immigration, I guess a little bit of both. What else we got? How about unemployment? Or when we're talking about that, what did Hillary run on?
I don't know.
She doesn't know either. Unequal pay is what she ran on. Remember? We talked about this, right? Did we not talk about this? We did. A little bit? Not a little bit? Just a little bit? A little bit? No?
One sentence.
What else? What other problems do we have? War? Okay. That's kind of a big one. We don't have that hopefully too often. Yes?
Our trade with like other countries.
Okay, trade. But the problem we have with trade is well, yeah. We have unequal trade, right? Trade deficits. We have with China, they're stealing our intellectual properties, right? Intellectual property, IP. What else? How about cost of healthcare? How about cost of education? You guys should, that one should have been at the top of your list, right?
Bernie Sanders.
Cost of education, cost of healthcare. How about this one? Ready for this? Pollution or global
Warming.
warming.
Snow in Vegas.
Okay, those are enough problems. We send politicians to solve the problems. Does any left or right own any of these problems? As far as they're the only ones that know how to solve these problems.
No.
No, you got to understand that. None of the left or the right are the only ones that know how to solve these problems. That's another lie. The big lie is rich versus poor. The second big lie is, well, when it comes to women's issues, the Republicans don't care about women, and the Democrats do. So the Democrats are the only ones solving those problems. Or when it comes to gun rights, the Democrats don't give a crap about your guns. The Republicans are the only ones that care about that, and so the Republicans, it's an absolute lie that one side owns an issue. No. The issue is here. The question is, how do you solve it? Each side has a different way to solve the problem. You just don't like the way they solve it. Their goal is to solve the problem, right? So remember, when anybody tells you, well, that's a Democrat or Republican issue, no, it's a both sides issue. Absolutely. So that's the second big lie that everyone tries to tell. So I'm going to tell you the differences, 5 philosophical and ideological differences between the left and the right. Here they are. Ready for this? You will remember this the rest of your life, because you will write it down. You'll write it down and remember it. All right. Number 1. Individual versus group. Number 2. State versus Fed, and this is solving problems. Number 3. Their ethics. End justifies a means versus do what is right. Number 4. Freedoms versus safety. And number 5, idealism versus pragmatism.
Is that listed as left and right respectively?
Nope. Okay, those are the two versus, the sides on these things. Now we'll break it down and find out which goes where. And as we do this, it'll all become crystal clear to you, I hope, how politics works. Now, you got to understand that this isn't winner take all. It's not an all or nothing. This is a, where do you put most of your emphasis? Because everybody believes in all of these things. We all believe that individuals should have rights, and we all believe that groups should have rights. We all believe that the state should be able to solve problems, and we all believe the federal government should be able to solve problems, and so on, right? The question is, where do you fall as far as more weight than the other side? Which do you put more importance on? Which do you focus on? That's the key. So, on the political spectrum, you have going to the left, going to the right. As you go from the center to the left and the center to the right, you get more extreme in the views. You understand that? So, if you're right here, you're fairly similar, right? And right now we have the Democrats and we have the Republicans. The Democrats find their home right now on the left side of the political spectrum. The Republicans find their home on the right side of the political spectrum. But if you notice, they're fairly close to each other. The reason why our country does so well, as opposed to many other countries in the world, I shouldn't say many, all the other countries in the world, is because we don't have that much turmoil. When we switch, we're going this direction, and then we go this direction, and we go this direction, but we're still going the same direction. Many other countries throughout the world will go from here to here, and so everything turns and goes the other direction, and it all gets torn apart, and then goes the other direction. And so it's very difficult to get things done and to maintain some stability when everything is being redeveloped and reinvented every time a new group of people take over. So it's very stable in our country. That's a good thing that the Democrats and Republicans are fairly similar, and they largely are. A lot of people say, they're the same. No, they're not. They're not, but they're similar enough that we don't have turmoil. So, as you go further to the left, you get more and more and more of these ideas over here, and further to right, more and more of these ideas over here. Let's list this and see which one of these falls on which side, okay? So number 1. I should scoot this over, huh? Okay. Individual rights versus group rights. Let's talk about that one first. With individual rights, the question is, does the person, the individual, have more rights than groups? Or do groups own the rights? And you typically will fall on one side or the other of that. One of the parties, or one of the philosophies, not parties, one of the philosophies says we define people by groups, and the other says no, we define people by individuality, their individual rights. And the party or the group or the philosophy that says we group people up wants to separate, designate, and then give rights based on what group you fall into. And the other one, the other side says, no, that's not the case. Each individual has rights, regardless of what group they're in. And all the rights are the same based on the fact that you're an individual. Whereas groups can have different rights based on the group you're in. So, thinking about that, which the left or the right is group-based? You
Right?
said left, what do you think?
That's group.
Left. Individual over here. Think about it. Democrats versus Republicans, very easy. Which groups are typically Democrats? Well, blacks, Jews, gays, right? You can start in your mind going down the groups, right? What about Republican? Which groups are Republicans?
All right.
White?
White?
Sorry.
No, right? Absolutely not. Not like the groups are. I mean, 80%, 85%, something like that of African Americans vote Democrat. 80% of whites don't vote Republican. 50%. What groups are on the Republican side? See what I mean? There are no groups that vote in blocks on this side, because it's not about that over here. It's about individual. The focus is on individual, not on groups. This side automatically wants to group people up and then define the rights. So the first thing they do is they say, well, are you rich or are you poor? I'm going to group you in your income. Are you woman or are you man? And they define you, well, women, you never hear Republicans going, well, you should vote for me because I'm a man. And as a man, I'm going to go to Congress and I'm going to vote on things differently as a man. But don't you hear women saying that? The Democrat women saying you should vote for me because I'm a woman. Or vote for me because I'm black. Or vote for me because I'm Hispanic. Or vote. It's about the group identity, right? And over here it's the individual identity. See the difference? Next one, state versus Fed. When it comes to who do we give the power, who do we think is most likely, capable, able, and best to solve problems? And when I say state, I'm going to say it's the individual, city, or state versus the Fed. Who's best suited that we give the power to solve the problems?
Representatives.
Which side thinks that the federal government is best to solve problems, and which side says we think it's the individual, city, state to solve the problems? Let's think about this for a second. Think about this for a second. President Obama was debating Romney. Anybody remember this debate?
Yeah.
During the debate, a question was asked about cost of education. The question was, gentlemen, education is becoming exponentially expensive in America. It's becoming very, very difficult for people to get an education. We believe that education is the most important thing in America. What will you do to help this problem as president? President Obama went first. Do you remember what he said? I don't remember either. No, he said something like this. I have a 5-step program that I'm going to implement here. First off, the federal government is going to pass laws that is going to mandate that certain banking institutions have to provide federally backed and federally funded student loans. Number 2, we're going to pass a law that's going to increase funding, federal funding, for Pell Grants. Number 3, the federal government is going to do a task force that goes out and makes sure that certain groups of people are allowed better access to the education system. Number 4, the federal government is going to do federal stuff about federal things, and then we're going to federally fed the Fed. And he got done and everyone went. Brilliant. Brilliant outlining of how the federal government is going to solve that problem. And then they said to Romney, what do you think? And he said, well, obviously education is very important. If you can't afford to go to college, what you should do is talk to your parents and see if they can help out with that. You see the difference?
Yes.
And then he said, this isn't an issue for the President of the United States. This isn't a federal issue.
Man, that's why he lost.
It's so funny.
Probably. Probably. Is it a federal issue? No. Do you see the difference? I'm not saying one is right or wrong. I'm just saying
You just can't say.
which side says the federal government is best suited to solve problems first? The left. What happens if we have pollution? What does the left say? It's not pollution. It's global warming. Why is it global warming? Because if it's pollution, that's something you can solve individually and by the state. But when it's global warming, that's different. One of the things you'll notice over and over when it talks about politics and when it talks about problems is the right will continually try to describe problems as being smaller than they really are. It's not that big of a deal. This can be handled by you and your family and the state. And this side tries to exaggerate the problem. Yeah, there's some pollution, but it's not really pollution. It's global warming. The world is going to end in 12 years. If we do not change everything you know about your life, if you do not, the emergency is so horrific that kids' heads will explode if we don't do something about this. Why? Because the bigger the problem is, the bigger solution needs to be. This side wants to describe things as being big. This side wants to describe things as being small. Anytime when a politician starts talking about how he wants he or she wants the federal government to come in and solve the problem, you've got someone on this side. The federal government. And by the, oops, I put fag. Federal government. On this side is the person. If you can't solve it, what do? You have a problem, you can't solve it, what do? That's right, you go to your family. And so when Romney said, you go to your family, you see if they can help you out with your schooling. Why did he say that? Because he thinks like this. He says, if you have a problem, you solve it yourself. If it's too big of a problem for you to solve, what do? You go to your family and you see if they can help out, right? Hey, I can't pay my bills. I can't pay my bills. What do? I lost my job. What do?
Yes, your guy.
Do you immediately apply for unemployment?
No.
Or do you send out your resume and try to get a new job? You see the difference? I can't get a job. Well, talk to your parents. Anybody hiring at your place? Talk to your aunts and uncles. Who's hiring there? Doesn't work? Then what do?
Cry.
Can't pay your bills? No. Don't cry yet. Can't pay your bills. What do?
Ask mom.
I'm broke. Mom?
Ask mom.
We already did ask Mom. Mom already gave you money. Here's some money for the bills. Here, I can't give you any more money. I'm out. Now what do you do?
Grandparents. Ask grandparents.
Grandparents. Grandparents are tapped out. Now what do you do?
Godparents. Aunts.
Family's gone. Gone. Now what do you do? Take a loan is this one.
Friends.
That's you personally solving it. I'm going to take out a loan. Friends, okay. Then what? Friends are tapped out. What do you do? Yeah.
Go to like a public program or something.
No. Public program is over here. Well, possibly. Just a second. You're right, but that's over here. State. State has public programs. Absolutely. Before you get to the state, where do we go?
City.
City? Before we get to the city, one more we're missing. It's interesting how this used to be the thing that everyone immediately thought of, and through the years it has become the one thing that is left out here, and it's interesting. Yes?
Stealing.
Stealing is a personal solution of the problem that is combined with the community because you're forcing the community to do it. But in all seriousness, I know you're kind of joking, but in all seriousness, you know where that falls?
Jail.
Where does the government get their money?
Tax.
Taxes. Do you have the choice to not pay taxes?
No.
If you don't pay the taxes, what happens? You go to jail. Taxes are collected from you by gunpoint to some degree, right? So when you say stealing, who takes our money and gives it to other people? All right. Next one. Which one are we missing here?
Court.
I'm sorry?
Court.
No.
Charities?
Charities. Charities. There are groups, charities. Groups. And the big one.
Sure.
People used to go to their minister, their bishop, their pastor, their, what am I missing out on? Priest, whatever. Whoever the head, the rabbi, whoever the head of the group is, they would go and say, I need help. And you know what? That was the largest provider of charity in America for a long, long time, is churches. We don't even think about it now. Nobody goes to church anymore. Nobody participates. That's how the poor was taken care of. But it's largely been shifted over through time.
What's the first one on of a group in church?
Oh, charity.
Sure.
That's an R. So, where do you go to solve your problems? You go in this order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If the problem is too big, after that, where do you go on this side? You only go to the federal government once a problem is too big to resolve. That's what this side says. This side says, why in the world are you going to go through all that trouble when these guys have all the money, they got all the resources, they've got the knowledge, they know what's going on, just go and let them take care of the problem. It's a different approach to solving it. Next one. Ethics. The end justifies the means versus do what is right no matter what. Is there the left or the right that says it's okay to violate people's rights and to hurt people as long as you're doing it for a good cause?
Right.
Give me an example.
FBI and torture.
FBI and torture. Well, the FBI, torture is absolutely one.
Yes.
Yes, torture is a good example of that. And is that a left or a right ideology?
Right.
Based on what?
Didn't President Obama, didn't he outlaw that? The practice of
No.
torture?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's actually, it really isn't a left or a right thing. It's, you know, there's politicians on both sides. In fact, McCain was the biggest, who was a Republican, was the biggest one. I believe he was the one that wrote the bill. He was the biggest promoter of that. Yeah, it's not a left or a right thing. You got guys on both sides on that one. Any other examples? Yes?
War.
War? Yeah, see, you guys are going to the big stuff. I'm talking about small stuff. Just small stuff. Is it okay to violate somebody's rights to get the end? Yeah, we do it all the time, right?
I think so.
All the time we do it. Can you paint your house purple?
Not if you're in HOA.
Not if you're in an HOA. So it's okay to violate my rights, my property rights, for what purpose?
Or hang an American flag.
Property value.
For the group,
For the group.
not driving.
Property values. For the group. It's okay to violate your rights for the group, right? Is it okay to take somebody's money by gunpoint?
No.
No.
Not by gun.
The government does it.
By gunpoint?
If you don't pay, they'll arrest you. Guys that show up and arrest you have guns. Yes?
I think end justifies the means is more of a left thing, actually.
Think about this, you guys. It is absolutely a left thing. It is a left ideology. I'll give you several examples. Let's say you want any of these problems. Guns. We believe that violence causes, gun violence is caused by guns. We want to solve that problem. What does the left want to do?
Take them all away.
Wait, they want to do what?
Take them all away.
Isn't that violating my rights to own a gun? Isn't that immoral to violate my rights? Is it okay to violate my rights to own a gun if you're on the left? Yes. Why? Because the end justifies the means, right? The end is we'll all be safer. We will all be safer. It's okay. You got to put up with the pain. You got to put up with the pain of having your rights violated. What about cost of health care? Cost of health care. How did we solve that? With Obamacare. The left solved it with Obamacare, right? How does Obamacare work?
You have to get Obamacare. You don't have to get Obamacare.
Mandated. You have to get it. What if I don't want to? What if I don't want to do it?
Okay.
Too bad. You have to do it. Well, don't I have the right not to have health care? No. You have to do it. Well, okay. But is it immoral for me to pay $800 a month when I was paying $400 a month before? If it doesn't cost me $800 a month to cover me? Is that moral to take more than it costs to cover me? No. It's immoral, right? But we justify it. Why?
Because the ends justify the.
Because we need to pay for people who can't pay for it. The end justifies the means. It's okay to take money from somebody to give to somebody else, right? The end justifies the means. What about, here's a great one. What about, my mind just went blank on the name of it. Affirmative action. What's that all about?
Easy, buddy.
What's that all about?
It is basically you're allowing people who the argument is that may not be qualified to attend schools that they may otherwise not be allowed to go to because they're minority.
That's right. Yeah.
Asians going to.
The idea is you have quotas that take precedent over qualifications. And it's based on what? Group. Defining people in groups and then saying this group is underrepresented. It's not the individual, it's the group. If you're Asian, you may come from a very poor family and you may be the first one to go to college, but I'm sorry. And if you're black, you may come from a very rich family, but you put in a group and then you say, we don't look at the individual merits, we look at you as a group, and is it okay to not let somebody into college where they have better credentials than somebody else? Is that immoral?
Me and the Harvard baby.
And you say, yeah, it's immoral, but why do we do it? End justifies the means. Those are simple ones, right? Those are simple ones in this level. What happens when you get further down and more extreme on the left? And the end justifies the means. Is it okay to shoot someone in the head? Is it okay to take their children and run over them with a car? Is it okay to exterminate completely a group of people? Label them as a group and then wipe them out? Is it okay to take them as a group and put them in a concentration camp? Well, sure it is. If the end justifies the means, we get rid of those crazy Jews, if we get rid of those crazy gypsies, if we get rid of those crazy Japanese, The end justifies the means. What about communists? How many millions and millions and millions of people were murdered brutally with no apologies because they were of the wrong group? We had to get rid of them. The end justifies the means. The left, as you get extreme on the left, justifies mass murder because the end justifies the means. Now, up here, it's nowhere near that, but it's things like, can you paint your house? Can you, right? These are simple end justifies the means. And it's, at the same time, that's a good thing, right? Can I speed down the road? No, why not? Don't I have the right to drive as fast as I want? Yeah, but we all agree that I'm taking your rights away from driving fast because you're putting us at risk. We all kind of agree that there is some acceptable amount of in justifying the means. So that's why I say on this spectrum here, we all kind of go, well, yeah, there's a amount in here that I'm comfortable with. At some point, I'm uncomfortable with it. And this side says, it's never right. Sorry. The injustified doesn't justify the means. Can you have absurd circumstances? Yeah. Sometimes you have absurd circumstances where we don't all enjoy the safeties. What about the guy that takes the guns and runs around and shoots people with it? Well, yeah, I know, that sucks. There's negative stuff from you do what is right, no matter what. Oops, I didn't put this up here. There was a hand, yes, sir?
Is the Hobby Lobby case that happened a few years ago?
It's a great example. Explain why it's a good example.
Well, because the Hobby Lobby didn't want to give rights to their workers for abortion because they didn't believe in it. And they're like, oh.
So how does that fit?
It's because people wanted to argue that they have to, and that they shouldn't, their rights should be ignored, and for the rights of the worker for working there, they have to provide health care, versus they can do what they think is right and not provide everything else.
That's right. There was two cases. There was the Hobby Lobby case, and then there was the Sisters of the Poor, the nuns, and those were parallel cases. The Sisters of the Poor, the nuns, the Obamacare said they had to provide abortion services in their health care. And same thing with Hobby Lobby, had to provide abortion services in their health care. And they both said, no, this violates our religious rights to be free of paying for abortions as part of our health care. What do you do when you have conflicting constitutional rights or conflicting rights? It's a tough argument, right? So the end justifies the means. Do you force people to violate their personal religious freedoms for the good of the majority? Do you force owners of bakeries to bake cakes for people?
Like that's an example.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are interesting arguments. And you see how it kind of falls on how the arguments say, the end justifies the means. Yeah, I'm going to force you to bake a cake. That's immoral. It's forced labor. We got rid of that with the 13th Amendment, right? But it's forced labor. And on this side, it's like, well, yeah, but these people, it's for the good of, you can't have people violating and treating people differently. That's immoral to treat people differently and unfairly. Yeah, I know. Again, it's not that one side owns the rights, the only good side. The both of them have some bad outcomes to it, right? So, end justifies means versus do what is right no matter what. You get absurd results when you do what is right no matter what. And we're going to talk about that in a lot more detail in about 2 classes from now. Next one, freedoms versus safety. Which side promotes freedoms and which side says, no, we're about safeties? About safety. Freedoms would be the right. Freedom and the left is about safety. This side says, we will give up some freedoms so that we can be safer. And this side says, we will give up safety so that we can be freer. There's the difference, right? And you can go policy by policy by policy on those things. Just straight down the line. What are you willing to give up to get? Yes?
Oh, that one just made me think of the guns.
That's right. Guns is a great one, right? I should have the freedom to own my guns. But you realize we won't be safe if everyone has guns. Okay, yeah, I realize that. But I have my freedoms. What are you willing to give up? Yes?
Can you explain that in the Patriot Act?
Yeah. Patriot Act says, we're going to violate every single freedom you guys have. We're going to violate you with a nightstick every time you try to get on a plane because we think you're going to be safer. There's an explanation of the Patriot Act. We're going to violate your privacy. We're going to violate, I mean, Patriot Act is the worst law that has ever come down, in my opinion. It's horrible.
Where did it come from? Was it from the left? I thought it was from the right.
Well, no, it came from a paranoid post 9/11 America is where it came from. President Bush signed it in. It came from the Congress. I don't remember at the time whether we had a divided Congress. It would have been probably a Democratic Congress and Republican president, so it was a bipartisan fiasco. It's horrible. Yeah.
So my question with that is, if you're not doing anything wrong, why do you care?
Yeah. A lot of people say that.
If you're not doing anything wrong, why does it matter?
Yeah. I know a lot of people say that. I say, F you.
One of
I have the right to be free from having my rights violated, regardless if I'm doing something wrong. Cop pulls you over, you're driving along, and he looks at you, and he says, "Oh, look, he's black. Let's pull him over." Woo! And you say, "What's going on?" He goes, "What? If you got nothing to hide, step out of the car. Let me search your car." All right. And he tosses your car, and then runs wants and warrants, and you got no problem with that? See, I do. I got a huge problem with that. Yeah, I got a huge problem with that. Unless you got to have probable cause, justification, and if you don't have it, you're violating my rights. I have the right to be free from the government's intervention. Yeah? And here's the other thing is, I'll give you a perfect example of this, and I'll just a second.
Now, if you do that, I also have the right to, to whatever I gotta do. Come see you in the morning and sue that cop, get that cop's name, whatever, but
Yeah.
the fact that if I don't got nothing to hide, those who have nothing to hide, have nothing. I don't care.
No, you do. Trust me, change your attitude, man. I'm telling you, we all have something to hide. Let me tell you a story, just real quick. I was driving home from work one day, and I was in a little 914 Porsche. I was just
Okay, you're showing up. Okay, I like that.
I was just out of high school,
I see.
and my brother and his best friend, who was our cousin, my older brother and our cousin, took the car out, and they were hanging out a little bit, and then next day I went to work, and I took the car. And driving home from work, minding my own business, all of a sudden lights are on behind me. So, I'm like, what? Pull over, and cops come out, guns blazing, screaming at me, "Get out of the car, get out of the car!" I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Let me see your hands. So I put my hands, it's a little convertible, so I put my hands up there, and they come around, they get me out of the car, and they bring me over to the side, and they cuff me, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And they said, "Whose car is this?" And I said, "It's my car." And they said, "Can I search the car?" And I said, "No, you can't search my car." Should have I said, "Yes, you can search the car because I got nothing to hide"? I said, "No, you can't search my car." "Too bad, probable cause, we're going to search it anyway," he said. "Okay, what's a probable cause?" We got a call that said that there was a yellow convertible Porsche that was stolen. It matches this description. We believe it's a stolen car. So I gave my ID. He said, "Let me get your ID." I gave my ID. Goes in, opens the glove box, gets the stuff, sees that the car's registered to me. And while he's in my glove box, he sees a weapon. So he comes over to me with this weapon, and he says, "What's this?" And I looked, I said, "I don't know, what's that?" It was a big old, I forget what it's called, something Pete, Texas Pete or Piccolo Pete, or anyway, some stabbing, murder stabbing knife. I don't know what it is. I'm not a murder stabber. So he says it's a whatever knife. I go, "Okay." And he says, "Why was it in your car?" I said, I don't know, why was it in my car? Why, I don't think it was in my car. He says, it was in your car. I said, I don't, it's not mine. I don't know how it got in there. How, you tell me how it got in my car. And he said, are you saying I planted it? I said, I have no idea. I have no idea. If you're saying it was in my car and it's my car and I've never seen it, either you put it in there or somebody else did, but I don't know. And he said, well, I'm confiscating this and I'm not going to arrest you. I'm going to warn you, you can't have weapons like this. This is an illegal weapon in California. And he almost took me in and charged me with, weapons crimes. So let me go with a warning after violating my freedoms for quite some time. And then I got home, a couple weeks later, I'm telling the story to my brother, and my brother goes, oh yeah, Billy put that in there. We took the knives and put it in there, I forgot about that. You don't know what's in your car sometimes. You think you do. You think you got nothing to hide. You don't know. You don't know what they're looking for. You don't know what's in your car. You don't know what's going on. You never say anything. They're not your friends. They're not your buddies. They're not, if they're pulling you over, you never give them permission to search your car. Ever, ever, ever. Yeah. But anyway, so I disagree. My freedoms are more important than my safety. But that's just because I disagree. I understand that people disagree with me. They got nothing to hide, and they say my safety is more important than freedoms. Okay, I don't begrudge you. I'm just saying we disagree on those things, the left and the right. This argument, by the way, was around when the Founding Fathers argued this. When you read the Federalist Papers, this argument was the biggest one in the Federalist Papers that they were talking about. Freedoms versus safeties. And you had Hamilton and you had Jefferson battling it out. It's no different today. It's hundreds of years later. We are still battling the same arguments that Hamilton and Jefferson were talking about back then. Yeah.
What I was going to say, it depends on another thing about the freedoms. If whoever's stopping you has decided that they want to find something, then they try to maneuver or to get what it is that they want you to be guilty of, or whatever that it is that they're trying to get you for.
Yeah, sometimes there's a lot of reverse engineering that goes into that sort of stuff. The Supreme Court has said that that's okay to some degree, which I disagree with. And by the way, it was Scalia, my favorite justice of the Supreme Court, who wrote that opinion. And it was a case where a black guy was in a white neighborhood and driving a hoopty, and they said, this guy doesn't belong here. The cops followed him around long enough, and eventually he made some error of not putting his blinker on 100 feet before this turn instead of, he did it 50 feet before the turn or something, and they flip the lights on, they pull him over, and they toss his car, and they find in the trunk of his car burglary tools and a bunch of VCRs and stuff that was stolen, and they charge him with theft, and sure enough, he was burglarizing the neighborhood. And he appealed it and said, no, it was a bad stop and it was illegal. And went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, if I were on the Supreme Court, I would have said, bad stop. Bad stop. You can't do that. You can't profile somebody and stop them once they commit a crime. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, you can. As long as they committed the crime before you pulled them over. As long as they didn't put the blinker on before you pulled them over, it doesn't matter what the mindset of the officer was at the time. But see, I fall over here.
What if it was your house that he robbed?
I know.
It'd just be
I
one
know.
of those
No, I
things-
understand.
One of those things you're willing
I'm not
to
saying
do.
it's an easy one. I'm saying I fall over on the freedoms. I fall on the freedom side. My freedom is more important. Yeah? Yeah.
My mom actually said from the minute that we started driving, me and my sisters, because we're under her insurance, that no matter what we get pulled over, we have to say no to a search. And she
Yeah.
does not care. As long as we're under her insurance, it's no.
Yeah. And it should be after you're under your
They
own
actually
insurance in
detained
your
me
own car.
for half an hour because I
Yeah.
would let them search my car.
Yeah, good. Never. If they're going to search it, they're going to search it. And if they find something, they then found it over your objection. But if you come to me as an attorney and you say, oh, by the way, they asked me to search it and I said okay, and they found 10 pounds of marijuana in the trunk, and I go, what the hell? Yeah, and you go, I don't know how it got there. I'm going to say, well, you're screwed. You gave permission. I got no defense. At least if you just said, no, I at least have some defense, bad search. You had a comment, sir? Yeah,
No.
oh,
If you watch live PD, every time that they show, I love them. That's all I watch on YouTube is live PD. Every time they're like, can we search the car? And people are like, yeah, I got nothing. And they search and they're like, what's this little bag? And he's like, they're always like, damn, I forgot to take that out last
Yeah.
night.
yeah,
And just, you learn like, why didn't say
Yeah.
this?
you just never
It's a
do.
waste of time.
Okay, so safety versus freedom. And it doesn't have to be with criminal, it can be with every aspect of any policy as you go down here. Right? Safeties versus freedoms. And by the way, it breaks down a lot of times when you talk about groups, men and women see these things differently, typically. Most women are more inclined to want safety,
Not anymore.
right? Think about it. Kids want to go outside and play. What does the mom say? Well, wait a second, what kind of shoes are you wearing? Make sure you have your jacket on, and make sure you come back in, and what? And then what does the dad do? Dad goes, shut up, let him play, go, have a good time, right? Men and women, the difference. I'm sorry?
I think I was not a good mother.
Well, I'm just saying, typically that's the case. Women are much more concerned about safety, and men usually are more concerned about their freedoms. Typically, not always, but if they lean, that's typically the leaning on most of those. Did you put your hand up? Okay. Next one, last one. Idealism versus pragmatism. Which side has an idealistic view of life, and which side has a pragmatic view of life?
Realistic, pragmatic.
Yes.
I think the left is idealistic.
Yes. What's the difference? Idealism means the way things ought to be. And this side says, yeah, but the world is the way things are. This side says we should promote policy that results in the way things ought to be. And this side says we need to promote policy that deals with things the way they are. You see the difference? This side says, we all should be fair. We all should be equal. We all should have, where is it? Hillary Clinton? There it is. It's hidden right here. Equal pay. Right? Everything should be equal. And they want to pass laws. We've talked about this in the class, right? You want to pass a law. Let's say Hillary Clinton became president, and she ran on equal pay for women. You say, okay, great, equal pay for women. You're now the president. How do you do that? Let's say she's not even president. You're the president, you're the Congress, you're the queen, you're the king, you're the God, you're the dictator. You can do whatever you want. How are you going to do it? Let's say you guys are the president. You want equal pay for women. How are you going to do it? Yeah?
You'd have to survey each business and find out how much they pay each employee. And that would be very tedious because you have to go from business to business to business to business. Because there's already a minimum wage set.
That's right. You'd have to go to each business, survey, and then what?
And make sure the men and women are getting the same thing.
How would you do that?
Got to lower some salaries.
How would you do that?
Pissing people off.
No, but literally, pragmatically,
How would you do it?
how do you do that? You're just talking about, yeah, we would just do it. No, tell me how that looks. How do you do that? How does the government make sure that women are paid the same as men? And what does that mean? First of all, before you even get, we're way over our skis here. We got to define some terms, don't we? Don't we have to define terms? You're saying we don't? What does it mean, equal pay? Equal pay for what? What's unequal pay and what's equal? What does that mean? Do you know what it means?
Equal pay for the same job.
Okay, how do you know if you're doing the same job?
Well, if you both have the same degree, like if you and like a women lawyer, where both of you have like the same history and the same background and experience, then why should she be getting paid less?
It's a good question. Is she being paid less, first of all? If she is there any justification for that? Yeah,
But there's men that get paid less than a woman too.
well, sure, yeah. In fact, there was just a,
Women or we're focusing on both?
Google did an internal audit on this whole issue because they were being accused of unequal pay. They did an internal audit. You know what their audit showed? Women are getting paid more at Google for the same jobs than men overall. But let's say that women are getting paid less. We'll talk about that for just a second. For job. Is there any justification for that? You're saying you don't think there is. Is there any justification for that?
Well, if you were to put it this way.
Let's say you own the business. Any justification that you would pay a woman less than a man for the same job?
I saw a documentary where they were talking about this,
Uh-huh.
where the only difference or what caused it to be different, and as far as the pay for men and women, was that the women were usually the ones that would be the caretakers.
Yeah.
If they had children, they were the ones that would take off time to.
So you're saying if you owned a business and a woman worked less hours, even though she had the same job, if she was at work less, you think you should be able to pay her less?
No, I'm saying that's.
You don't think you
that's
should?
what they say.
No, I know, but if
Okay.
you, should you? Let's say you hire a man and you hire a woman and she takes off 30 days for the year and he takes off 0. Should it be justified in paying her less?
No.
No?
Not-
We have some
not
yeses and some no's.
Well, yeah.
not
What about if she takes-
hourly,
Just a second, no.
uh,
So let's say salary, let's say hourly, either way, it doesn't matter. What about 100 days a year? What if she takes off 100 days a year? No? What if she takes off 200 days a year and she comes into work 2 days out of the year?
She's Santa Claus.
Should you pay, she get less money than the guy that works every day of the year?
you don't get paid when you take that time off.
That's over exaggerating.
At
That's,
some point, you would agree with me that she could legitimately get paid less?
yes, like that. But
Okay.
let's just say if he
At
works
some
more-
point.
If he works more days than her, but she's going, like, even though they have the same title, she's doing more. Do you know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
How do you know? How did you come up with she was doing more?
Let's just, we're just throwing stuff out, just like you're throwing stuff out.
No, we just came up with that she worked less, now she's doing more?
She's working less.
She's doing more away from work.
Yeah, she's working less, doing more.
No, but.
Okay,
uh,
okay.
Even that if
So the outcome is the same, even though she does this, okay.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't, can she get fired?
What do you mean?
She could.
What if she's not doing more? See, let me go back, because we've gone off the rails here a little bit. How do you do it? Here's how you do it. You have the government come in to every business and define how every single business does business. And they would have to define every job. And then when you hire somebody as an employer, you'd have to fit them into this category. And every job would have a number and an assignment and a wage. And if you hire somebody, they would have to fit into that wage. And then you'd be audited on a regular basis to make sure that you all were paying your employees the same wage and they were doing the same exact job, and you had no choice over the matter. So if she took off more time, you couldn't reduce her pay. If she did worse work, you couldn't reduce her pay because you have to pay them the same. You see how that would take away your freedom as an employer to provide her with more job security, right? The federal government would have to come in and take over every single private business in America to define, describe, and regulate every single job. You know what that's called? Close.
IRS?
Good one. That's called socialism. And as you go down, that's all the way over here on the political spectrum. Socialism is when the government takes over the means of economic distribution in an economy. That is when you have more and more and more defining people by groups, more and more and more federal power and regulation, more idea that the end justifies the means. It's okay to violate the rights of business owners to get an equal pay. More idea that job safety is more important than the freedoms of the business, and so on, right? All these extremes are more as you get further down here. But now, back to the female-male deal. When you take and you look at the reality of incomes, there's a lot of factors that go into it, because I hire people. And I sit across from people, and when they come in, and I don't know how many of you have been out there and tried to get a job that wasn't minimum wage. Has anybody out here tried to get a job that was not minimum wage and that was not a government job where you're applying for an E63 or a 72-8 or whatever job, where it's something that some employer created? If you've ever had that, if you've had that, what happens in the interview process? You say, hey, I'm wonderful. And they say, okay, well, you may fit. And they say, here's what we want to pay you. We want to pay you $42,000 a year. Do you have to take that job? Are you forced to take that job?
No.
Can you say no?
Yes.
Can you say, I'll take the job, but I want $45,000 a year?
Yes.
That's right. You have the freedom to negotiate your salary. Or you cannot. You can just say, I'll take it. Personalities come into play when it comes to that, right? Don't personalities come into play? Aren't more people, or some people are more aggressive, more inclined to push back and challenge salaries, and other personalities are more inclined to go, yeah, I'll take it. And then once you're in the job, and you're working hard, and you're going, man, I'm kicking ass here. I should get a raise. Some people are going to go, oh, please notice. And other people are going to go, by the way, did you notice that I'm kicking ass here? I deserve a raise. Different personalities, right? Some people are going to say, I need a raise. And if you don't give me a raise, I'm going to get a job over here. And I already talked to that employer, and he's already offered me $68,000. You're paying me $66,000. If you don't give me $69,000, I'll go over there. Can you do that?
Yes.
Yes. Who's more inclined to act that way?
Men.
Men. You know why? It sucks, by the way. It's the one thing that I would trade with a woman in 2 seconds about, is we have testosterone. That is the most, it ruins, you have no idea what it's like to walk around with testosterone. It is the most debilitating thing on earth, in all honesty, I gotta tell you. But there are some upsides, like everything else in life, and one of those things is, typically we're a little more aggressive about stuff. That aggression over the large numbers pays off with more inclined to say, hey, I want more money. I'm not going to take this job unless. Does that add up over large groups? It does. It does. This whole equal pay thing is a very complicated issue. It's not simply an issue where people, and here's the best argument I ever heard about this is, if women really could get paid straight across the board 76 cents for every man, why would men get hired at all?
It wouldn't.
If you owned a business, wouldn't you just hire women?
No.
Save 26 cents on every salary, right off the bat, on every dollar of every salary. Just hire nothing but women. Straight across the board. The number one expense that every business has is labor. If I can get cheaper labor, why not?
Be some cat fights up in there, baby.
Well, you know what? And I don't want to, but the reality is, whenever you have drama in the office, it's between the crazy women, you know, every once in a while, guys, but most of the time, it's the women fighting. And so, as an employer, that's a factor that I consider when I hire, is what type of a personality does she have? Is she going to conflict with my office manager? Right? I mean, these are the realities when you hire human beings. It's tough. You know, men, you don't have that drama.
I'm just gonna lunch out the fridge, that's all I'm gonna.
All right. So there's the idealism versus pragmatism. Okay, so now let's look up here. I already gave you one. Socialism, as you go down here, has all of these things in more extreme. What about when you come this way?
Anarchy.
Not yet. Damn, he's throwing it out there. Before you get to anarchy, where are we right here? What, and this is, there's a group, a political group in America that says we should have open borders, we should have drugs should be legal, prostitution should be legal, get out of my face, give me my freedoms, give me my rights, give me my guns.
Millennials.
Get the hell out of my face. Millennials are a bunch of friggin' idiots. I wish they were like this. No, I hope, what is it? Oh, I thought you had it. What? Libertarians. Libertarians are the ones that say, give me my freedoms. You want to come over, you want immigration? Come on over. But you know what you don't get when you get here? Any free shit. Sorry. You can't feed your kids? Go back home. No free stuff. This is America. Wonderful place for opportunity. Come on over. Swing it with us. The more the merrier. The water's warm. Contribute. Great. But we're not giving you any free stuff. You can't handle it? Go somewhere else. They say, you want to have prostitution? That's your body. Do what you want. I don't give a rat's ass. Consenting adults? Why are we in the middle of that? By the way, that's the stupidest law I've heard in my life. Right? It's okay if you video record it and sell it. Now you can pay for sex. Right? It's called pornography. As long as you record it and sell it so everybody can see it, perfectly fine. But if you do it privately and you don't record it, that's a crime. Or if she says, shit, he paid for a good meal and I got some flowers, I feel obligated.
That's a tough one.
That's not a crime?
That's some thin ice
Yes?
right there.
I think because a lot of those women are like getting paid under their table prostitution. And like porn stars and stuff, like.
Oh, because so the government wants their taxation.
It's like, yeah.
They want their tax money.
And then prostitution is-
So then legalize it and get your tax money.
Just like we.
Money ranch.
Well, how are they supposed
Yeah.
to?
This is the argument, by the way.
Safety.
The argument is we're providing safety and we're violating your freedoms. You see that? And this is the side that since they're both here,
Safety from
they
what?
both agree on that because they're close enough. But drugs, libertarians say, you want to smoke pot? You want to shoot heroin in your veins? I don't care. You want to screw your life up? Go ahead. But again, you're not getting free shit. You're not going to be going, oh, you know what? I can't have a job because I can't keep a job because I'm all hopped up on goofballs and now I need to get, no, sorry. No, you don't get anything free. Go over to your family. If they're tired of your antics, go to your friends. If they're tired of your antics, go to your church. If your church kicks you out, go. And if, sorry, you're on the street. Have a nice life. Freedoms versus safeties. The libertarians are all for free market capitalism. You want to come in and tell me how much to pay my employees? Go screw yourself. Sorry, I pay my employees what we negotiate. If they deserve a raise and they're worth it and I can't live without them, I will pay them a hell of a lot of money. And by the way, I paid a lot of money to employees that I believe are worth it. You make yourself so that I can't live without you in my job, I'll pay you a crap ton of money. The first place I ever worked was a law firm where the secretary, the boss's secretary, was making more than the attorneys. You know why? She was worth more.
Yeah, none of them could do their job without her, probably.
She made herself indispensable, most valuable employee in the whole building.
I have a question.
Yeah?
How does, you just mentioned prostitution, how do the certain counties in Nevada get away with that? How is
Get away
that-
with what? What's that?
Prostitution.
Well, the law says you can have it.
I mean, it's legislated, it's the law, but how does it work? I mean, why not anywhere else?
Because
The law.
Random law.
So, random law?
random. What they did was they said, we don't want, it's going to be a blight on Nevada if people come in and they see it going on in front of their face. So while we want to give people their freedoms, we'll do it outside of Clark County and Washoe County.
Well, why
Other than
here
that,
and nowhere else in the country?
because everyone else has bought into the arguments, and Nevada for some time was very much on this conservative side. We've changed quite a bit over time. But for a long time, it was a very laissez-faire approach to things in Nevada. It was the Wild West, you know, freedoms. So, more and more and more of this over here, more and more and more of this over here. Libertarians. Now in the middle, what do you have? Well, you have like these little sub-parties, like Tea Party, right? You guys remember the Tea Party? They're more conservative, more, not really conservative, but they're more along these lines. Now, when we say, now is a good time to say it, right? No, it's not a good time. I'll do it in just a second because I'm halfway through. Tea Party on this side. The other side is, for example, I mean, there's a million of them, but the Green Party, right? What is the Green Party all about?
No idea.
Federal government coming in, regulating all the businesses to make sure that there's a small carbon footprint, making sure that all the businesses do business a certain way, that you're forced to recycle, the government comes in and controls your life more and more than the Democrats want, but not as much as socialism where they take over completely all of the businesses in the country.
Isn't that positive, the Green Party?
Positive what?
An impact, like even though some people don't want to do it, like.
It depends.
It's the green.
It's, just a second, listen to what you just said. Isn't it positive? How would it be positive? This is a great point. Because of what?
Save the
Recycling
earth.
and
No, yeah.
doing-
We're saving the earth.
We're saving the earth. So what did you just say?
Positive.
How is it positive? We're saving the earth. What are you saying? It's okay to come in and tell me what to do with my trash, how to run my business, how to all the regulation. Why? Because,
I don't think it's that deep though.
Save the dolphins.
oh, it is that deep.
It's
Why
like a
is it?
cycle.
What if I don't want to? You're saying you have to. They force you to by law. Why? Why is it okay to do that? Why is it okay to do that?
The ends justify the
Do
means.
you see what you're saying? The end justifies the means. It's a good thing. Your mind thinks this way. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying you understand it where you fall on the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
You say it's perfectly fine to violate your freedoms because the end justifies the means. That's fine. As long as you understand that that's where you stand, right? So anyway, so the Green Party is more inclined to be that way over here, right? So the Tea Party, Green Party is kind of a halfway. Now, since I gave that the asterisk, liberal and conservative, what do those mean? I'll tell you what they mean, since we're running out of time. I'll tell you what those mean. Liberal what, conservative what? The idea of the name liberal and conservative, I'm extremely liberal, by the way. And a lot of people that are libertarians are very liberal. So it's kind of a weird misnomer that you have liberal over here. And when you say progressive, what does that mean? It's just a euphemism because we all want to be progressive. It means you're moving forward, but moving forward from what to what? It's in a completely vague, meaningless word, but this side likes it because it's a positive connotation. So what does it really mean when you say liberal versus conservative? Here's what it mostly means. The liberal use of the federal government to solve problems versus the conservative use of the federal government to solve problems. That's generally what we're talking about. We're talking conservative and liberal. The conservative use, this side says, yeah, we use the federal government to solve problems, but very conservatively. This side says, we use the federal government to solve problems very liberally. We go to the government to solve most of our problems. That's what we mean when we say liberal and conservative. So now, what about when you go further? Further on this side and further on this side. More extreme than socialism. By the way, who is a socialist?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders is a socialist. Who else? Huh?
AOC.
Yes, probably. She says she's a socialist. Who else? Most famous socialist on earth?
Karl Marx.
No. Yes, Marx is a very famous socialist.
Hitler?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
National Socialist Party.
National Socialist Party. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Nazis were the National Socialist Party. That's what the name of Nazis, that's what it means. They were the Socialist Party. You guys, did you not know this? Where were you in school? The National Socialist Party is what he was the head of. Now, most people, when they define left and right, they put Hitler on the right, right? Is that correct? Based on the philosophy, the ideology? No. Was Hitler for individual rights? No. Did he group people and label them?
Yes.
Yes. Was Hitler for solving problems with your family and local, or was he about taking care of making sure that the trains ran on time and the federal government was going to run everything? Was he for doing what is right no matter what? Or was he about exterminating all the Jews because, damn it, those are dirty people, we need to rid the world of those people? Just a second. Was he for our freedoms, or was he promising people safety? Was he about the way things really are, or the idealistic world of the way things should be with his wonderful Aryan?
Definitely I do.
You see how he was a 100% left side guy. And he used socialism as his means to do so. Yes, yes, hand?
The thing about end justifies the mean and do what's right, maybe it's what he saw what was right though, because that was his idealism.
No.
No?
No, you're twisting the ethics. End justifies means you're going for what you believe is the end goal, and like you said, that's the right thing.
Right.
But what you're saying is it's okay to do bad acts to get the right result. That's the end. The end is the right result.
Okay.
Justifies the means. It's okay to kill some people because in the end we'll be rid of the Jews. This side says, no, you don't kill people no matter what. Yeah, but what if we have dirty Jews around? So what? You never kill people. No, sorry. What about people that really need a good killing? Well, maybe then. No, you still don't kill people. Do you have some inconsistencies, by the way? There are some inconsistencies politically on these things, on a few of these things. And let's see, abortion is one. There's another one I was thinking of. Drugs is the other one. Talk about that in just a second. So, as you go further to the left, more and more extreme this way, even more extreme than Hitler, what do you have all the way at the end of the spectrum? The most extreme view you can over here.
Communism.
Communism.
Castro.
What is communism? Communism is the total, complete control of every aspect of your life. You do not exist as an individual. Individuals do not exist in communism. You are broken down into groups, the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. There are only two groups. The ultimate of grouping. You're either a bourgeoisie or you're the proletariat. I'm sorry?
The rich or the poor?
Can you write it down on the board somewhere, so I can write it down?
I don't know how to spell bourgeoisie and proletariat.
Spell it out, as you write it.
Proletariat. Something like that. Bourgeoisie. Oops. Joisie. It's French. I don't know how to spell them. Bourgeoisie and proletariat. In fact, I can tell you how to spell it. Just a second. Okay, Google. Listen to me. How do you spell bourgeoisie? I don't have any service. Screw you. I don't have service. Okay. So, communism, they treat people as groups. The federal government not only has power, they have total power. They own you. You don't have any individual rights. You are an owner. You are owned by the state. Your children, they want to walk into your house, take your kids, shoot them in the head. Nothing you can do. They own your kids. They tell you what job to have. They tell you how much you're going to get paid. They tell you how much you can eat. They provide your toilet paper. They do everything for you. The federal government runs every aspect and solves every problem in your life. There is no personal family control whatsoever. The end justifies the means. They murdered in Russia 30 million. 25 million, it's hard to tell. In China, 35 million. In Cambodia, 4 million. and so on and so on. Millions and millions and millions. They wiped out whoever they wanted to get the end goal. The end justifies the means. What is the end of communism? What's the goal? Has anybody read Das Kapital? Has anybody read, you've read Das Kapital. What is the goal that Marx and Engels are fighting for, that they're arguing for in their whole breakdown of Das Kapital? Or if you wanted the shorter version of it, is the Communist Manifesto. It outlines it in there as well.
They want the rise of the proletariat.
Yes, to what end though? The proletariat rises, they shake off the shackles that hold them back, they take the boot of the bourgeoisie off their throat. It's a bloody revolution. They say you must have a bloody revolution. You're being robbed. By the way, it's interesting, they are brilliant when it comes to understanding economics in one aspect. See if I have a couple bills here that are different. I do. I don't only have $1,000 bills, by the way. You guys remember $500 bills? You don't remember $500 bills. So, 2 bills. Basically the same color, same shape, same size, same look, different numbers. One is worth 20 times the amount of the other one. Why?
Because we say so.
Because we say so. If I give you this one, you're going to give me 20 times the amount of stuff, even though it's just a piece of paper with a number on it. And you're going to give me real stuff, real value, food, water, shelter, whatever it is. You're going to give something that has real value for something that has symbolic value, right? And you're going to give me 20 times as much of it as if I give you this paper that's the same size, the same color, the same everything. What's the symbolism that this symbolizes? Marx nailed it. You guys have no idea, do you? We just run around throwing bills and say, look, trust me. Yay! What does it mean? I don't know. I just get stuff with it. What is the 20 what?
Lap dances.
That's one lap dance. 20 what?
Smiles.
You didn't even smile at that. That was like a, that was an uncalled for. 20 what?
Things, stuff, cosas, who knows?
It's weird, isn't it? When you think about it, you're like, well, that's a good point. What are we representing? What they said was, when you go, I'll give you a walkthrough. You go into an employer and you say, I want a job, and they say, great, I'll hire you. And you say, great. And you give them what for the money?
Resume.
Time.
Nope.
Labor.
Your time.
Your what?
Time.
Your time and your labor. That's what you give them. You go in and you give them 100 units of labor, let's say, and they give you pieces of paper with numbers on it in return. Those numbers represent units of labor, is what Marx says. And you know what? He's right. This building costs more than another building because it takes more labor, right? The more time and effort spent on something, the more value there is to it. And when you think about that, what is the greatest sin we can do? Is to steal somebody's time and labor. What is that called? Slavery. To steal someone's labor is the greatest sin. To take what they have and force them to work for you and to steal their labor. And Marx says, that's what employers do. Because you give them 100 units of labor, and then they give you a $50 bill. And they keep the other 50. And what does the other 50 go to?
More labor.
No.
Products?
They buy the products, good job. They have to buy natural resources or whatever stuff to make, let's say you're making widgets. Well, I have to buy materials to make the widgets. I have to buy the sugar to make the cookies or whatever it is, right? And I have to pay for the supplies. What else does the 50 go to?
Taxes.
Taxes,
The bills?
bills, the utilities, the rent, and then themselves. Let's say they spend $30 on overhead, bills, and all that stuff, and there's 20 left over of your labor. Guess what they do? That's called profit. And Marx says, aha, that's unfair. They're taking your labor. Capitalists, on this side, the capitalists say, wait a minute, you don't understand. that 20 pays for something. What does it pay for? According to these guys, what do they say it pays for? Anybody know?
They're living?
Are there wages?
No. No, it doesn't pay for their, I mean, it does, but there's an actual value that they're getting for it, or
Invisible,
giving for it. What?
invisible hand.
That's what's explained. You know, the invisible hand is actually what controls everything under capitalism, you know. But Smith, right? No, that's not what he's giving for it. He's giving something. The owner is giving something for the extra 20. What is it?
To keep it organized or to be able to give you that job.
Yeah, to a large degree. He provides the opportunity for the job. He provides the job itself. But the way he provides the job is he has access to the customers. He has access to the business. He provides the job. And the other thing is, we all understand how gambling works. When you take a risk, you get paid for your risk. He's the one that put the capital at risk. He took his money, he started the business, he took the risk. And we kind of all understand that when you take the risk, you get the reward from the risk. Somebody else didn't take that risk, you did. So it's the risk and the access to the job, the capital. That's what he's providing. Without him, you don't have either of those two things. No job exists. So there is something that he provides for that 20, is what this guy say. This guy, Mark says, no, that's robbery. Well, his ideas were so titillating that it took over half the world. Half the world became communist. Crazy, huh? From the late 1800s, early 1900s until about 1975 or so, those 75 years, about half the world at some point caved in and practiced communism. What happened to it?
Collapse.
Every single one of the countries that tried it collapsed or converted to capitalism. There's only a few that still are around. Who are they? Cuba, which is holding on by the skin of its teeth. They've been to Cuba, they're still driving 1950s cars, and it's just like time froze in Cuba in 1950. Where else?
North Korea.
North Korea, again, barely holding on by the skin of their teeth. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm gonna say we just got a girl from Cuba at my job, and we're watching a video, and I was like, oh, is that how it looks? And I think she got a Phoenix. It was very like poor and run down.
Yeah.
And she said that even though they have less over there, that they're way more, like they're happy with what they have, and they don't have the newer cars. She was talking about the cars too, but they're happy there.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah. You know what? She's probably right. And I told you this at the beginning, right? Be careful what you chase in this life. The simple life is luring. It's beautiful. It really is. You can find happiness. Money doesn't bring happiness. Prosperity doesn't bring happiness. But it provides opportunity. It provides freedoms. Kid Rock had the best line ever in one of his songs. He says, money, money, money means shit to me, but I've got to make a lot just to stay free. He nailed it. Money buys freedom. That's what it buys. That's what it buys. You want to live here or there? Well, if you have money, you can choose there. If you don't, you have to live here. Money buys freedom. Yes?
Can't freedom in turn buy happiness?
I don't know. That's a good question. Money used right buys freedom and happiness, probably. But a lot of times we use our money to also enslave ourselves.
What do you mean?
Well, you use money to buy drugs, smoke, get involved with, we buy a mortgage that is above your head, buy a car that you can't afford, now you're enslaved. I mean, I gotta tell you, I have to work a lot more the more bills I have. I'm enslaved by my creditors.
Biggie said no money, no problem.
Yeah, oh, it's true, absolutely. So, used right, money can buy freedoms. So, where were we before we spun around?
Talking about socialism, Hitler, Marx.
So yeah, so the value of money, what it means, it's labor, right? So the goal though of communism is you take down the proletariat, the bourgeoisie, the proletariat takes down the bourgeoisie, and they take over, and then what we do is, if you're a baker, you bake. If you're a plumber, you plumb. If you're a mechanic, you work on cars. If you're a cop, you violate people and pull them over. And whatever you do, and nobody gets paid for anything. But if you need something, you just go and get it. You need a TV, you just go to the store and you grab a TV. You need food, you go to the store and you get food. And then when your plumbing breaks, you get on the phone and you call the plumber, and the plumber says, I'll be right there, and he fixes it. Nobody exchanges any money. That's the idea. You just do whatever you need and you give whatever you got, and we all are happy. Why didn't that work? Humans. What about humans made it so that it didn't work? Two things.
They're greedy.
Greedy and,
Racism.
what's it?
Racism.
Racism?
Yeah.
They want it now.
Yes, but I don't think that was the biggest problem. That's the greed.
No.
The big one, what's the big one? What?
Laziness.
That's right. That's right. When the alarm goes off, why do you get up?
Because you have to.
Because you have to. On Saturday, do you get up early?
Yeah.
Do you have to?
Yeah.
Okay, what if you don't have to? Is there a day you don't have to get up early? Do you get up early? No, you sleep in. Yeah, some people still get up early. See, I can't sleep, I just wake up. But for those of you who can sleep, you sleep in. What if there was no job you had to go to? You still were going to get the food, you still were going to get plumbed, you still were going to get your car taken care of, even if you don't bake.
Wouldn't go.
What happens is people go, and you justify it. My back's a little sore, and I stayed up late last night, and we all justify it, don't we? Laziness and greed gets in the way, and it collapses. And so what the government does is they have to say, oh, no laziness or greed is going to get in the way. Get your ass out of bed.
Right now.
And that's how communism works. Complete oppression. You have to work. If you don't work, you're dead. You don't make the money, you're dead. So what they said is, you oppress people long enough, after multiple generations of oppression, you then pull back the government completely. And after this greediness and laziness is bred out of you, then we pull the government back and you just go on to the future holding hands, singing Kumbaya, skipping into the sunset, plumbing if you're a plumber, getting up early, and taking care of all and the world is beautiful. Oppression results in the elimination of greed and laziness. And you live in, what is the goal? Utopia. The goal of communism is utopia. And what's ironic is, it's a world that has none of this, none of this, none of this. It's a world that has no government. Because the government's pulled back. It's utopia. You don't need a government. The goal of the left in the end is to use government so extremely that it eliminates the need for government, is the goal. Isn't that interesting? What about the other side? You come over here and you give more freedoms and less federal government and less federal government and more freedoms to people individually and families. And what do you get at the very end? Anarchy. It's actually anarcho-capitalism, but anarchy for short. What's
What, can you repeat it? You said it's actually.
Oh, anarcho-capitalism. I'm sorry?
Or ANCAP.
ANCAP. See, the cool kids say it ANCAP. That's right. Anarchy. What is anarchy?
Chaos.
Free for all.
It is absolutely not that, by the way.
What's that?
Free-for-all and chaos. It is not free-for-all and chaos.
What is it?
Think about that. If you had this to the extreme, would you have free-for-all and chaos? Are there any countries that has this to the extreme? where there's no federal government, it is only this over here. Yes, there's two. Afghanistan is one.
Oh, yeah, gotta live there.
Where's the other one? It's where all the pirates come from.
Somalia.
That's right. Somalia is the other one.
That's what I'm talking about, let's go.
Are those countries that have no rules?
Yes,
No, are you kidding? You misbehave over there, you get your hand cut off.
that's true, you're
You
right.
get shot in the head. Things are ran there. Who are they ran by?
Friggin', my man from,
The Taliban. The Taliban runs things, or warlords, or there's very strict rules. What happens, here, perfect example of this, what happens when we have a zombie apocalypse and Rick Grimes and his buddies, what happens when you have total chaos? What do we immediately do? Do we take out our guns and run around and go, ah, drrrrrrrrrrrrr? No, what do?
Group up.
We group up. First thing we do is group up. First thing human beings do is they go, hey dude, are you cool? You gonna shoot me? I'm not gonna shoot you? Okay, I got your back, you got mine. Instantly we group up. And then we find someone else. We got each other's backs. Okay, well if we got each other's backs, who's gonna take watch first? Okay, the rule is, oh wait, we have rules? We gotta have rules. First thing we do is group up. Next thing we do, we set rules. You don't have to have a federal government to have rules, regulations, responsibilities, obligations. Absolutely. It is not chaos in anarchy. Yes?
Okay, so then wouldn't that push you, like once you start to make a group and you start to make rules and everybody starts to share this ideology, but then you have one person, one or two people, or maybe even a group that starts to dictate all the rules, now you just jumped all the way
That's
to
right.
the left.
Well,
So-
now you haven't jumped there, but you start creeping up.
Right, so you
That's
said
right, you start
Afghanistan
creeping up.
is on the far right though, but then you said the Taliban controls everything, so then their method would be a leftist
No, I'm
ideology.
sorry. I didn't mean they were the far right on this. I said they're an anarchist country that has no federal government.
I
So
see,
they,
okay,
so
okay.
they still may have some weird issues that creep over just because you have human nature. I don't think there's any pure application of all of these principles. They're just kind of an anarchist, no federal government country.
Gotcha.
But to a large degree, they have a lot more of these things. You know who has a lot of these things actually? Is homeless people. You know? Yeah.
I lost my train of thought, but I'm gonna come back to it. I will find it again.
Okay. Yes.
Did you say Venezuela is, no, they're not a communist country, are they?
Well, they're nothing now. They're in civil war, chaos, and turmoil. But yeah, they were right. Probably here. Who? Venezuela. Anytime you have a dictator, any country that has a dictator, right off the bat, is on the left, right? You understand that? Because how do they do things? I make all the decisions. The end justifies means, whatever, all of the principles are over here on the left. All the dictators run things on the left. It's all socialism. Capitalism, democracies are on the right. Yes?
So then are you kind of saying that anarchy would be basically like, not one for all, but like by the people, actually?
It would be, yeah, it would be more individuals making the decisions and, groups, families, these people making the groups. As soon as you get it large enough, though, where you go outside of a state and you have states starting to form. When America was first started, when you had the colonists, that's what this was. But then as soon as the states started realizing, hey, we need to kind of group up and form a federal government, now all of a sudden when you read the Federalist Papers, they start saying, wait a second, what do we do here? How do we define this? How much power do we give over here? How much power do we give up? Because we're just a bunch of communities. There are a bunch of states. And how much of our power are we going to give to this? And that's what the whole debate was in the Federalist Papers. What benefit do we get from having a country? Well, we have borders, we have army, we have, what freedoms do we give up to have these safeties? And at some point, people start jumping off and go, too much, too much, too much. And at some point, people start jumping off and say, too much, right? And so we have a deal where largely our country is run right here, where we kind of keep this balance. You know where I fall on all of this? Where would I fall from what you've heard me say?
Liberal?
Libertarian.
Yeah, I'm somewhere right here. Right here. No, I don't know. I'm somewhere, you know, I'm over here somewhere, right? Because there's certain things that I, for the most part, I'm a freedom guy. I don't mind having some bad stuff happen and the risk of bad stuff happening, you know? I don't mind having a country or a state that says, you don't want to wear your seatbelt? Don't wear your seatbelt. I don't want to wear a helmet when I ride my motorcycle. I'm sorry, you have to. No, I don't want to. If I want to just crash and then you hose me down because there's nothing left of me, then that's my right. And I realized that that could happen, right? So that's kind of, you know, I'm more of a freedom sort of guy. But that's my personality is I have more kind of, I guess, maybe stupid confidence in myself. And so I say, damn it, I'll take on the world. I don't care. And those personalities tend to be more over here.
It's that testosterone talk.
Probably, yes. Any other questions? Okay, so this last thing, this also is a form of no federal government. Do you see how, interestingly, both sides taken to the extreme end up in a spot where they both have no federal government? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And ironic.
So anarchy is only on the left and then communism is, or, I'm sorry, anarchy is only on the right and then communism is only on the...
No, they're both at the end here.
Okay, so they...
They're both at the end, but the extreme of the right ends in anarchy, the extreme of the left ends in communism, and the goal of both of them in the end is a form, not the same form, but a form of no federal government control.
But wasn't Mao's China like federal government on steroids?
Yes.
So then doesn't that defeat what you just said?
No, why?
Like you said that communism is no federal government? Is that what you just said?
No, that's the goal of communism. That's the goal of communism. Oh, absolutely.
So it has,
That's utopia. Again, remember when I said, when you read Marx and Engels, the goal of communism is utopia. Utopia says you have to have government on steroids for several generations, and then you pull back. Then you pull back. Once you've oppressed the people so massively that you can change human nature,
Stockholm.
the oppression is so severe, exactly, that you can change human nature, only then do you pull the government back, and we don't need it anymore.
I see, okay.
And why has China lasted as a communist country?
Because of the mixed economy?
That's right, because what they've done is gone, woo! They've kept the dictatorship, but they've infused capitalism. They do capitalism in China better than we do capitalism. They have laissez-faire capitalism. They don't regulate any of their businesses. They run roughshod. They pay their workers like shit, and they have no regulations, and there's safety hazards everywhere. And right, I mean, they do capitalism, laissez-faire capitalism on crack, and as a result, they can undercut us financially. So they're using capitalism against us in a limited way. It's an interesting infusion of capitalism in a communist country. Any other questions?
No.
So again, the reason why I went over this, the reason why, is so that you guys can understand the difference between the left and the right. And you see now, with these 5 principles, how it works. When anytime you hear some politician and they're gonna be talking about stuff, they're gonna say, well, what should you do about this? And when they say, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have the federal government, I'm gonna regulate, I'm gonna provide safeties for people, you go, okay, I got you. And, or if they say, you know what, it's all about freedoms. Talk to your family about your education if you can't afford it. That person is on the right. And once you find out how they think politically, you don't have to wait for them to go on each topic. You don't have to say, well, I want to wait to see what this guy has to say on abortion before I vote for him. You don't have to. All you have to know is how they stand on one topic. Because once you know how they stand on one topic, you know how they're going to stand on all the topics, because philosophically you know where they stand. Unless they are weak. I don't respect politicians who bounce around. Those are weak people. You don't know what you stand for? You're for heavy federal regulation on one hand, and you're for freedom. Whoa, then you scare me. You're telling me that you don't understand politics and you don't understand philosophically where you stand in this world. That scares me. I'm not voting for you. I want to vote for somebody who's consistent, so I can know how you're going to vote when something comes up that is new. Right? Don't you want that? You want somebody who's consistent. So remember this when you're looking at, know where you stand on these issues. And again, I don't think there's a right or a wrong. It's philosophically where you stand, how you approach life, and also have some empathy and some understanding for the other side. It's not that one side is evil and they want to destroy the world. They just see solving problems differently. Right? And so have some understanding, have some empathy, and then when you debate them, you can say, listen, I understand how you see things, but here's why I think this other side works better. And you can approach things better as a critical thinker.
So how do you look at somebody that would fall on both sides? Or like you said, that...
Like I said, I think they don't understand who they are. Most people kind of naturally have an inclination on one of these things. And it's usually, this one is the big one that defines people. Usually. Not always, but usually. Okay guys, have a good week.